think we are live. Hey, y'all. Lindsay here, Find Fearless Coaching. And I am here with episode 4 of a Fearless Life interview series. The fearless and fabulous guest on today is Errin Weisman. Hi, Errin. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Heck yeah, girl. So grateful to have you here. Okay, so just quick introduction on Errin, and then we will jump into the interview. So, Dr. Errin Weisman openly speaks on her experience of professional burnout early in her family medicine career so that no woman feels alone, and to prove you can have a joy filled and sustainable career. She lives and practices life coaching and medicine in rural southwestern Indiana, loves her role as a farmer's wife, athlete, and mother of 3. Hot dang, girl, mother of 3, absolutely amazing. And a
Mhm.
farmer's wife, so incredible. Besides being sassy, she enjoys getting mud on her shoes, teaching her children to catch tadpoles, and reading a great fantasy novel. She is the creator of Burnout to Badass, which we will dive into here in just a little bit, and also the creator of a podcast called Dr. Me First. So at the end of this video, I will put links above or below the video, depending upon the platform, of how you can contact or reach out to Errin if you're interested in any of her services or learning more about what she does. All right, Errin, let's kick this off. Tell me just a little bit about your personal journey of the creation of Burnout to Badass, or how you kind of went from burnout to badass.
Absolutely. It is such a personal journey. So I found myself in 2014 in the worst possible position, even though it was supposed to be the best. Like that was when I was finishing my family medicine residency. We were buying a house. Like I signed my big girl contract to make my big ass doctor paycheck. And seemingly, like I said, I should have been at the top of the mountain, but I felt in the pit of the valley, absolutely numb, absolutely crispy with burnout. And yet I was like, what's wrong with me? Am I broken? Like I gave up everything. And now I'm finding myself in the place where I've achieved it all and I'm empty.
Whew, empty. I know that feeling where it's like, oh, the big ambitions, all the goals, and then you get there. So what next from there? Like what were you inspired to do after that? Was there a lull period? Was there a moment of just regathering and rediscovery of who you are and what you wanted? I mean, what was next?
Well, within the first couple of weeks of that new job, I was just like, holy shit, what am I going to do? Because I mean, I had multiple 6 figures of debt, like around $240,000. Um, I had just signed this big contract for 3 years to work at this outpatient clinic.
Hmm.
And I was already ready to like stab my eyeballs out. And I was just like, what do I do? I just felt so stuck. I felt so trapped. I felt like I really wanted to run away. I mean, to be perfectly honest, like I just wanted to somehow disappear off the face of the map. But of course, there's responsibility. There's 2 little boys at home. There's a scared husband who's like, holy shit, I'm a farmer. Like, how do we make this if you quit?
Hmm.
And so I did what I tell all my patients not to do, and I got on the internet. I was like, what do I do? You know, Lindsay, here in our part of Southern Indiana, like I was the only female doctor in my county.
Wow,
Um, I had
incredible.
just relocated from a large metropolitan area to a county with 13,000 people.
Mhm.
And I was lost. I mean, essentially, I was lost. But yet, I was supposed to be this like kick-ass professional with doctor in front of her name, and like, so how do I keep up that facade? But then also like, how do I get unstuck? And so it was a huge conundrum because I was like, well, do I see a therapist? But I don't want to because then that could impact my medical license. Like, so I reached out to friends and I got 2 answers. I got, oh my God, I feel the exact same way. or no, everything's fine. I don't know what you're talking about. And so, like, between those, nobody really had a solution. So within the like I said, the first couple of weeks, I was in my boss's office and I was like, what do I do? And I remember her telling me, she's like, well, actually, that's why I transitioned to leadership, because I was feeling the same way in my clinical work. And I was just like, yeah, but I just got started. There's no way they're going to promote me
Yeah,
at this
right.
point. So I went
Entry
further up
level
the
to,
chain.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember walking into my CMO office, which is like the top dog doctor in the organization, with my checkbook, ready to write back my forgivable loan sign on bonus, because I was done. Like, I didn't know what else to do. And luckily, I married up. I have a wonderful husband who was like, just give it 6 months, Errin. Like, I know you want to like throw the hammer down now, but give it 6 months and let us try to get our feet under us and figure this out. And through that waiting time, it was excruciating. I'm not going to lie. Like, the Sunday dreads were horrible. The Monday mornings were awful. The evenings were terrible. But I was like, okay, just give it 6 months. It'll figure it out. And through that process is when I, again, was online, because I was like that 1 a.m. LinkedIn person just trying to find another job. Even if it was like at the checkout line, I did not care at that point.
Yeah.
That, and I came across this thing called life coaching, and I was like, I don't even know what it is, but if it's going to help me, maybe. And I found a fellow physician. She was also family medicine who was doing this coaching thing. And I was like, maybe she'll understand. I've talked to everybody else. Maybe she will understand. And
Yeah.
so I got on the phone with her for the first time, and I felt seen and I
Mm.
felt heard, and like this little spark of hope reunited in my life. Because honestly, I was to the point that I was hopeless. If it wasn't for my children anchoring me, I think I would have took off. And at times, there were the thoughts that, the only way I'm going to get out of this student loan debt, the only way I'm going to get out of this is if I die.
Oh my gosh, just chills all over my body, when you said that, being seen and being heard, are just so massive, and then the fact of your children being your anchor, kind of your accountability partner in a way, because I know in the health and life coaching world, we talk a lot about support and accountability, and how incredible of your husband just to be that supportive force as well. So that's incredible. Okay, I want to dig a little bit further into this journey because I think so many people can resonate and relate. How did you get unstuck? Okay, so you found life coaching. Awesome.
Mhm.
And you kind of found, not maybe not, I don't know if she was more of a mentor, but I would consider her like an earth angel or like an angel that came in to help bring you some information, some awesome information into a time of need, of hopelessness, right? So what was the journey like from there? Was it baby steps? Did you kind of catapult forward? How did you get unstuck? Because a lot of us feel stuck at times, and especially stuck in indecision and kind of like we want to run away rather than move forward and, maybe baby step into the future.
And I have to say this, like, as I tell the story now, it sounds very cohesive, but that's total hindsight. It was a hot mess all over the place. So I first just want to frame that out. It's not like, oh, I found this perfect thing and then it just like went. No, it was a hot fucking mess everywhere. So anyway, working with the life coach, what I realized is there was just so much inner junk that I had either consciously or subconsciously ignored for decades,
Mhm.
that like I needed to get my shit straight. And so the first couple stuff when it came to the life coaching, it wasn't like all these huge like ahas or, how to build a business, or it was just really like, Errin, what do you really want for your life?
Yeah.
And like, because for me, from my experience, I was trying to be perfect doctor, perfect mom, perfect wife, perfect community leader, perfect doctor, perfect friend, perfect all the Pinterest, all the things. And what I realized is like, I didn't even know who I was anymore. I
Mm.
didn't even know what I wanted anymore, because I had made this decision back when I was in high school to be a doctor, and, was told, you can do anything you want, Errin. And I did those things, but then along the way, I forgot to keep a reevaluating of like, is this what you really want?
Mm,
Because now, like getting into like my mid 30s, it was like, do I really still want what 18-year-old Errin wanted? No. Life had fundamentally changed. And I didn't change my thoughts around things. I was doing all the like supposed to's and I should, and this is what a good doctor looks like, instead of just sitting back and being like, no, like you can have anything, then what is it that you really want? And so that was where the real work for me really started. And once I cleared away a lot of that, and at the time it didn't feel crystal clear. It was just like, well, I think, or maybe something like that. But at least it gave me a North Star to kind of start guiding towards. And as I was working with my coach, she was like in career, probably 60s. I was looking around and I was like, where's all the like young life coach moms
yeah.
at? Because we need this shit. We needed this shit years ago. And I was just looking around and I was like, nobody's talking about it how I talk about it or how I think about it or like my experience. I saw a lot of old white males. I saw a lot of women who were like in career doing more like mentorship rather than coaching. I saw a lot of like new age type stuff. And I'm a hardcore like STEM woman. Like I can do a little woo in my life, but I want like some science and math, definitely.
Heck yeah.
And I just didn't see that.
Love that.
And so then that's when the idea was like, you could do this. You could be that person, Errin. And of course, then that was like, then all the excuses came up. Like, no, I've got kids and I've got to like figure out this medical practice. And we live in the middle of nowhere. We don't even have internet at our house. Like, how am I going to do this?
AKA fears and self-sabotage. Please
Yes,
continue.
all of that you talk about. But what it was just slowly like integrating in, and the two things that I came up with that I wanted my life to be moving forward. I wanted a job that I didn't have to take a vacation from, because
Yes.
I mean, people know when you're on vacation and you're planning your next vacation because you have to go back, that's not living. And then the other thing I wanted in my life, I wanted to be able to get up in the morning without an alarm clock. Because for so long, I had been doing 4 and 5 a.m. wake up calls to either round to the hospital or go see nursing home patients, or just wake up early and get charting done so I could start ahead before I started seeing more patients. That I was like, this is utter and complete bullshit. Like, I am not doing this anymore. And so that was the compass that I started working towards, knowing that like there are no rules, there are no right answers right now. And if I really got back in touch with myself and started asking myself the questions of like, what do I need? What do I want? And then if fear is coming along with me on the journey, how do we proceed forward? Then step by step by step by step, I started to craft that life. And now I can say, well, we're at almost 7 years later. I am sitting in the middle of that. Now, it did not happen immediately. Don't get me wrong. And like, even in hashtag living my best life, there are still fucking dumpster fires. But I can successfully say, like, this morning, I don't wake up to an alarm clock. Like, my husband gets my kids up out of bed. I hear them. I'm like, okay, it's time to get up. And I don't feel like I always have to perpetually keep planning vacations. Like,
Mm,
to get away from my life, to escape.
yeah.
Instead, they're just part of my story.
Yeah, that's powerful. The escapism part, trying to get away, even if it is just via planning a vacation. So there's something that you really hinted on, and I thought it was really powerful. This idea of, you know, continuing to live what 18-year-old Erin wanted, or, rather than taking some moment for reflection and assessing your life and saying, is this what I want moving forward? Is what I thought I wanted back then, is that what I want to continue on? So, anybody in this situation of feeling stuck, or potentially in a similar situation that you had gone through in their life, what would be your main recommendations for them? Would it be, the assessment of their life, or looking back and yeah, just discovering what it is they want now?
Yeah. I think the first thing is giving yourself the permission to even look,
Hmm.
giving yourself the permission to even question. giving yourself the permission to say whatever like bubbles up and out of my mouth as I'm talking about this or as I'm writing about this, I'm not going to judge it. I'm just going to put it down. Because I was even to the point I had squashed all those thoughts, but then I had another layer on and it was like, no, 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 don't even go there. Like that is not allowed. And so I think it's so important to be like, you know what? Because I am a super high achiever, I've always been a rule follower. I'm super type A. And so, like, following the rules was part of like my ingrained being. But guess what? When you wake up in adult life, there are no rules and you don't have to ask permission from anybody. And so I think that's the first thing is just giving yourself permission. And if people are in this group, I think they probably have already cracked that open to
Mhm.
say, like, you can go there. You can be a doctor turned life coach. You can be a engineer turned baker. You can be a know nothing person turned top CEO. We hear those stories all the time. And what's the difference between those of us that got stuck and stayed versus those who went for it? I think it honestly comes down to just they gave themselves permission to say, like, what if I went and did this? What if I quit my doctor job and instead created a business where I help others love their life and make sustainable careers? What if?
Yeah.
And because I have people all the time now, they're like, oh my God, I want to do what you do. And I'm like, okay, go there. But every single day, you are going to be like peeing down your leg, just so you know. So, like, either sitting in the misery of your life that you hate, or like buckle up and be ready for a crazy journey because
Yeah.
there is no manual, there is no handbook. All the shit about people putting stuff online about scaling figure businesses is utter and total bullshit. And so you have to find your own recipe. And I think that's why I love, find your fearless is that you got to like lean into that fear. You've got to like go there in it and say, okay, worst case scenario. So that was mine. Worst case scenario, I quit medicine, I start this business, what happens? And to me, it was like, we lose everything. We have to live with my in-laws and my kids eat cat food. Like that was my worst case scenario.
Oh God, cat food. Sorry, I'm just having a visual
No,
from
but
childhood.
yeah, exactly. And so then I had to go there and be like, is it worth it? Is it worth it potentially
Yeah.
like being happy and fulfilled the rest of my days, knowing that this could be a complete and utter failure? And like some days I'll be perfectly honest, it's like no. And that's why I kept staying in medicine and trying some other things and pivoting and like doing that kind of stuff because I was still scared. And like, so knowing your risk tolerance is super important. But even with that, you can take small, purposeful steps moving you in that direction.
So I love what you just said about risk tolerance. What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate just a little bit on that? Because that's great. And yeah, I would love to hear more.
Yeah. So if you think about the person who, like, think about your friend who is just like, let's go shopping and drops everything and does it. Or it's like, let's
Yeah.
drive to Florida and she just goes. Or she like just does these things and you just step back and you're just like, what? Like, I don't spend $20 without balancing my checkbook, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like understanding your risk tolerance. Some people are more risk tolerant. They know, okay, this is going to be a risky move, but the
Mhm.
potential payoff is huge. Where the rest of us sit and we're like, okay, we can take a little bit of risk,
Yeah.
but we won't get as much gain because of that. And so it's just understanding that about yourself. And so in some areas of my life, I'm very risk tolerant, like
Mhm.
jumping on a Zoom call and talking about like my super shitty life and then how it's gotten so much better. Like I'm very comfortable doing that. But if you tell me to invest like $10,000 in something, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm going to have to think about this for a couple weeks. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Whereas other
absolutely.
people are very risk tolerant with their money, but yet maybe not so much in other areas of their life.
Mm.
So it's really looking at and then looking one layer under that to be like, okay, what's under this? Is it some kind of like mental story that I'm telling myself?
Yeah.
Is it something that I was told as a little girl? Like, oh, nice girls, don't do that, or responsible people don't do that. And so really getting under that, or is it my intuition being like, no, 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 we don't need to go there. And those are subtle, and like you really have to sit with those to tease those out.
Okay, sorry. I got to dig into this too because it's so profound. This is something that I've thought a tremendous amount about in my entire life is like, when is it programming that, or things that traumas from past, or things from childhood that we learned that are keeping us from doing something that could potentially be amazing? Or when is it intuition saying, no, 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 you don't want to do that right now. That's not a good idea. How have you been able to decipher between the two of those?
It's really hard and it's really subtle. And I think
Yeah.
that's part of where you have to really be sitting with yourself. Like, you can't be super busy and try to differentiate this. I'll be
Yeah.
perfectly honest.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to be tuned in to know the difference. But I think for me, and I'd love to hear your answer on this, I think like that automatic programming, if it's something that is like, that is what it is, do not question it, law of God, or you hear somebody else's voice in your head telling you that, like a parent or a teacher, or then I think that you can really clue that into programming.
Mm.
If it's intuition, I think there is a little bit of inner knowing where you're
Yeah.
like, I don't even know where this comes from. To me, what it feels like is like a feather tickle. And like I notice it, but it's like, what is that?
Yeah.
But I have great peace about it when I speak it out loud, even though I might be unsure about it.
Mhm.
There is some sort of peace with it. And so that's how I tease out the differences. There's
Yeah.
no animosity around it. There's no anything like that. What's your thought on that? The difference between programming and intuition?
Yeah. So it's taken a long time, and I still have moments with it, right? So my personal way is intuition is like a body feeling. It's something that I feel not only in my mind, but my entire body. Um, and like you were saying, like an emotion of peace with it, even though there might be some fear around it, or like, oh God, what am I doing here? I'm going to have to take a courageous leap. It is this ultimate feeling of just inner knowing that this is the right thing, or this is the right next step, no matter how scary it may seem, taking that leap. And then the other is more of like a heady scenario where it's you're kind of lost in your thoughts, your brain's overtaking, it's chitter chattering about everything. And that's when I can kind of decipher a little bit more if it's old programming, or if it's just fear or self sabotage coming in rather than, intuition. And so I always use this idea of I surf, and so being out in the ocean, I'm terrified of sharks. Don't get me wrong, but there are moments when I've been out there where it's like, oh my gosh, I feel a shark is around, and I try to decipher, okay, is this just because I watched too much Shark Week on National Geographic? Or is my intuition telling me, get the heck out of the water? And so I just close my eyes and I take a moment and I access my breath, which really helps me get in the water. And there have been moments where I'm like, nope, it's just fear coming in. It's just things I've seen in my past on TV. I'm just a little bit nervous about the unknown right now. And there have been moments where I paddle straight back to the boat or the shore. I'm like, nope, this is, there's something going on here and I'm not going to take the risk. So I'm headed back. So I think it can be applicable to so many different scenarios in life because we're influenced by so many different things, whether it's programming from the television or what people say around us or other people's fears or programming from childhood. So it can be really a powerful tool to step into the intuition or, quiet the mind and decipher between the intuition and the programming. But it's not an easy one, that's for sure.
Right. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And being a super science nerd,
Mm,
for so much of my career, emotions were irrelevant.
mhm.
They were not valid. And that's been really interesting to get back into that, to get back into feelings, get back into the body. Um, that at times, and I just want to put this out for other people who may feel that, as women, we've been told not to trust our bodies. We've been
Yeah.
told that, you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too this size, like you shouldn't feel like that, you shouldn't cry, all of those things, that sometimes our bodies can feel like a really scary place. And that's why I think it's so important to like start in small doses. Just like if I was titrating a medicine up, that if you try to like access your body immediately today without any groundwork, you're going to get this huge swell of signaling that you're just going to like shove it all back down again. And so even now, there's times where I'm like, nope, just can't go there. And so know that that's okay. And it's part of the journey and it's part of the process. And you're not doing anything wrong. It's just at times you just have to come into this more slowly than maybe someone who has always had that like inner body work or that inner knowing. Because for me, like from about, like I said, 18 till about, I don't know, 31, 32, like I was all school, I was all medical education, I was all the job. And so there are times that like going back to the breath is really good. I actually will like feel my pulse, like my radial pulse. That's something that centers me because again, that's the super like sciencey nerdy, and just start counting. Whereas other things, when people are like, access stillness in your body, I can't go there. I
Yeah.
can't.
What other tools do you have? Because I love this, because you're right. Not one tool works for everybody. And some things are super woo for certain people, woo woo for certain people, and some things aren't, so there's such a broad spectrum. But I
Well, I love
love,
that you asked me that
yeah,
because
I love your
I
background in science. So,
I wrote this book, hence the podcast, Doctor Me First. It's a workbook, and it pretty much took all the exercises that either I bumped into or that I used, and I kind of science nerded them out. I'm not gonna lie. So, like one of them, that's one of my very favorites, is in the front. It's called the mindful CT scan. So I
cool.
think about like laying on a CT gantry, and a CT is the big donut that you go through, and like laying on there and thinking about, okay, if that machine is like scanning down through me, what would it show on the computer screen? And I like to go there and do that instead of like in yoga class, like have you do shavasana and like look at your energies. Like I just can't go there. But you tell me to look at a CT scan on a computer, I'm like, oh, I got that. I can do my own radiology report.
Yes,
So,
love that.
like, so I think it's just encouraging people that, like, if something doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't mean it's wrong,
Yeah.
but you need to craft it to your own experience.
Mhm.
You need to do it. So, another one that's funny, I would just say this because I just came off a retreat weekend that I was holding, and we were doing yoga, and they talked about your heart center. Well, for me, my heart center is on the left side of my chest because that's where my heart actually is. So I have to think when they say that, like, oh, my sternum. They want me to put my hand on my sternum.
Mhm.
And so it's absolutely acceptable to interchange words.
Yeah.
I grew up very evangelical Christian, and actually, I would say that I have deconstructed my faith. So when people say like God, and now I use the terms like universe or source or
Right.
something else. And so
Yeah.
that I can still go to religious services with my family, but I don't evidently have to absorb their terminology.
Mm. I love that.
And so I would say that's another huge technique that has really worked for me. Um, because I think I toe the line. I'm not all traditional medicine, Western medicine, but I'm also not all woo. Like I am definitely a hybrid in that. And just being like, it's okay to like pick some from that side and pick some from this side and to knit it together and
Yeah.
to make it my own. So essentially my workbook is exactly that. It's those things that came out of my brain and that I put down in hopes that somebody who has like tried all the things, maybe this version would resonate with them.
Amazing. Where can people have access to that workbook?
Oh my God, I'm
Oh no, might have lost your, uh-oh. Hopefully she'll come back here soon. Hmm. Errin. Okay, y'all. Well, I think we're gonna have to leave it there. Something with her internet just kind of stopped us on a dime there. So we'll finish up the interview here. I will put in the comments section links in order to access her workbook, um, different things about her. So, and her programs, Burnout to Badass, all the things. So they'll either be in the comments above or the comments below. If you're interested in learning more about what I do or potentially booking in for an interview, you can absolutely reach out to me as well. I will leave my link in the comments section, or sorry, in the description above or below. Thank you all so much for joining us. Wishing you the most beautiful rest of your day and week.